This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I'm trying a new microphone thing, so I apologize for this little thing here, but I'm trying to set this all up. So I hope it sounds really good for you guys tonight. So for those of you who don't know, I am a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Remember to super chat, click the $ next to your name and in the comment box. All donations go back into the mission. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. So just click the big blue button that says join. Okay, so our guest for season 3, episode 28 is Damien Nott. Damien Nott was born in Sydney, Australia, and grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, where he currently resides. His story came to public attention in 2012 after contacting a UFO research organization in an attempt to find an answer to his repeated experiences with the UFO phenomenon. He became and continues to be an avid researcher, focusing on the subject. And I also learned in the pre-show that he's also a private investigator, so I'm really happy about that. He has appeared in episodes on Ancient Aliens, the documentary Beyond the Spectrum, and has also starred in Australian Skies. He has 2 new films, which is Haunted Skies and Fractured Reality. And I believe there's a third one, Fractured Realities Part 2, which will be coming out in spring or the summer. So, Damien, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing today?
It's always on my tinfoil hat.
All right.
Good, mate. How are you? How are you going up in Canada today, Ryan?
It's not too bad. It's a little cold today, but in these igloos we have, how is it down under?
It's actually not too bad. I think 2 nights ago we had the coldest night in 50 years here in town here. So, okay. And it's strange because we've just come out of winter, which is so it was minus 3.7. So it gets nothing compared to how you guys have it, but for here it's pretty cool. So
ours is coming. Ours is definitely coming. I just want to shout out to the members. I just realized a lot of members are on tonight. So hello, Christopher. Hello, Moonlight. Hello. Oh, Christopher, thank you for that super chat. Thank you, buddy. My dad popped on. Hey, Dad, how you doing? All right, so let's get into it. Like I always like to start with why are you the way? Oh no, actually, before we get into that, pardon me. This episode is brought to us by Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. He provides an icebreaker. So I almost broke the rules there because it's been so long since I've done this podcast. But what he's done is he's created a question for me. I'm going to open this live and I'm going to ask it to get the show going. All right.
Too easy.
All right. So let's see what Timmy has for us this evening. So his question is, what do you want to be etched on your tombstone?
That's a great question. That's a brilliant question. If I have a tombstone at all, it would probably be, rest in peace, I guess. That's how I'd want to be, just resting in peace like everyone else. Well, you're not going to know anyway what's on your tombstone, so,
that's true.
So it's not really going to matter.
All right, well, Tim, that's your icebreaker. Thank you for that. So you can find Tim the Demon Guy on cool Facebook question. And as well as Twitter as well. So let's get into that. Why are you the way that you are? How did this start?
Okay, it goes back to when I was 9. I had a sighting of a UFO, a red ball of light, a place called Blacktown, Western Sydney, and here in New South Wales. And it followed me down the street. And it was mimicking my movements, probably about 12 to 15 feet above my head. I got home. It was only small, maybe the size of a basketball. I ran the rest of the way home after watching it for 30, 40 seconds or something, and it started to freak me out. I realized it was something very strange. And ran home and told my mom, and mom said it was just an aeroplane. So that kind of got me going into the whole, I knew it wasn't an aeroplane. So I was kind of like one of those kids who was like, no, I've got to be right about this. So I started looking into it a little bit and reading books as much as I could. But it wasn't until 3 years later when I was 12 and I was camping with my brothers, my stepbrothers at the time. And we're just looking up at the sky and lying on our backs, and a really hot night. All of a sudden a red ball started coming down from the sky again. And I was like, wow, that's what I saw. And I was telling them that's what I saw 3 years ago. And like, oh, wow, we're watching it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the next second, a ball from the left has come, and it was a brilliant blue colored ball, and started chasing this red ball across the sky, like vast distances. And then it would stop and then take off in a 90-degree left-hand turn with no forward inertia whatsoever. Just completely mind-blowing across vast distances of the sky, and then they'd stop and go a different way. Within about another minute or so, or 2 minutes of this happening, another ball came in, like a greenish yellow colored ball, started chasing the red ball with the blue ball around the sky. So there was this big circus thing happening, and we were just watching it going, wow, this is incredible. And then all of a sudden the red ball took off up this way. This would have been, my father came out and saw it as well. So there was 4 witnesses to this event when I was 12, and we couldn't explain, we didn't know what they were, but I knew that I'd seen the same thing a couple of years earlier. But so it was this sighting which really propelled me into finding out even more about it, more so than the sighting I had when I was 9, because I guess I was a little bit older and whatnot. So I started going to the school libraries more and borrowing books off friends and people and trying to find out and talk to teachers about the subject and all this sort of stuff. And then I started to see the stigma that was attached to it. And then I started wondering, why is there such a stigma attached to this? And then as you grow older, you start to realize, yeah, there's reasons why there's a stigma attached to this phenomenon. No one really wants to talk about it. Even people who've seen it want to keep it to themselves. And I wasn't a person who's like that. I wanted to share it with people. So during the course of my life, from when I was 12, I'd probably seen a very small handful of UFOs all the way up to a decade ago. And so there was a very small part of my life, even though I still, for the past 33 years, have still been reading about it, researching, watching other documentaries. No, I know all the cases going way back, but it's not until you experience the phenomenon yourself that you can really have a kind of grasp and understanding of more of what's going on than just reading it in a book. And so a decade ago, I came up to the country here, and on the second night, I witnessed a massive white ball of light, and this thing was huge, and it was floating. This is only at 11:30 at night. Was floating past. We live in a town of 750 people, so everyone, there's 3 street lights in the whole town. So we're known as the astronomy capital of Australia around this area, Coonabarra, Dunedin, because you can see the sky, the Milky Way. It's beautiful. There's no city lights or anything like that hampering the view. No light pollution, and just down the road we have a satellite dish, and we have observatory and all this sort of stuff. So it's a perfect area for it out here. But this white ball moves silently, and it must have been half the size of this house, and I'd never seen one that big before, down that low, just huge, and gliding silently over the rooftop. And we had in town at that night, we had cattle auctions on the outside of town. There's all these cattle, and this thing was headed towards the cattle. And so as it was moving, it disappeared behind this shed, and I never saw it come out the other side. And I was like, what the hell? But then within a few seconds, all the dogs started barking throughout town. All of the cattle started going crazy in their pens. You could hear them banging up against the middle railings and carrying on and so all over town, there was all these animals just all at once while this thing was down, reacting to it. There's no way in the world. It's like they were reacting to a predator. They were sensing this thing and reacting accordingly. It was very unusual. And I've seen this multiple times before, even with the smaller balls of light, animals reacting to them and whatnot. So yeah, it was really strange. So after a few more sightings, and I'd get my father involved, and he'd come and see more and everything. And after a few more, and after a very close sighting, I contacted a UFO group in Sydney. They came up. They sent investigators up, and the first investigator who came into town, a gentleman called S03E028. I was out the backyard at the time, and I had a camera pointed up over the house, and I heard my name being called. So I've run through the house, and here's this investigator who's rocked up into town after a 4.5-hour drive, and my father out the front yelling my name, pointing up over my head. So I've looked up behind me, and there's this massive disc-shaped, orange glowing UFO just moving silently during the daytime, low over the house, heading right where I was in the backyard with the camera and everything. So it was incredible. And we just watched it, and straight away the lead investigator, the other guys were still catching up to him. I think there was 9 people that came into town on that weekend. And yeah, they all saw UFOs here. We had the president come up of the same group the following weekend, and she saw 9 of them in the backyard here, lights that would stop over the backyard, flash really bright, and then take off in another direction. Multiple lights at the same time, spinning around each other and going off in different directions, and all sorts of really bizarre things. And she'd never seen a UFO before, so her mind was blown. And sure enough, at the same time in town, there was actually we have a newspaper here called the Sun Herald, and it's one of the biggest newspapers in Australia, one of the most respected ones anyway. And they were in town investigating the bushfires just outside of town, and they were staying at the same bed and breakfast that this UFO group president was staying at. And sure enough, the lady there said, "Oh, there's a guy up the road, and there's a woman investigating him." And sure enough, they were keen on talking to me, the journalist. So I said, "Yeah, come up, no worries." And they've come up into the backyard, and within about 5 minutes, so the 4 of us are standing there. Within 5 minutes, Mariana Flynn, who was the president of the UFO group, UFO Research New South Wales, she's actually said, "Can you get your friends to come?" And I'm like, oh, that's no mean treat. I don't have them on a string. I can't pull them down from the sky. But I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. And so I just sat down and I thought, guys, now would be the best time for you to come. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. But at the same time, within 5 seconds of me thinking this, 2 UFOs have come over the house playing a game of tag across the sky with each other in front of the journalists, in front of the president of the group. And we just watched in amazement. The timing, everything was just impeccable. And so they wanted to do a story. And I said, well, look, if you guys come back the next weekend and see something else during a Skywatch when on your way back from doing the story, then fine, then I might go in the paper. But they came back and they're in a rush. And I said, well, look, I'm only going to go in the paper if you include that you saw the UFOs that you saw. And they did. So from then on in, we had people coming from around Australia, hiring buses from the Northern Territory, coming down here with families of 15, 20 people, people just rocking up at the door unannounced. It was bedlam. People would go downtown, and because it's a small town, everyone knows everyone. So they'd ask around town, oh, do you know where Damien Nott is? And, oh, he lives up at this address. Some people would tell them, unfortunately. And so we'd have people rocking up at the door all hours of the night, morning. It was crazy for a while, but I stayed around here for about 10 months. And then I started up AAPI, Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations, around the same time. And just to sort of get some people behind me, get some other investigators on board, try and work out what's going on with this phenomenon a bit more and trying to get into it a bit more. And yeah, it's gone from there. So I've been in a few documentaries and stuff like that. And I've been lucky enough now that 3 of the documentaries out of the 5 I've been in, UFOs have actually shown up during the making of it, which is really bizarre. And they've included it in the documentaries. So it's pretty strange, the phenomenon. So that's pretty much
why do you
where I am now.
It's so interesting how you're able to attract so much. So why do you think it? Do you think it's you? Like, why is this happening?
I don't think it's me. I mean, I have everyone else tell me it's me because they've been around me and seen it, and they've never seen stuff before. And my ex-partner Melissa, she'd never seen anything. And then we caught up, and then we were together for several years, and she saw over 80 UFOs with me in that time. And so I can't say it's me, and I'm not an ego-filled maniac. I actually, I'm a bit down to earth, and I don't believe that it's me. But I mean, a gentleman called Mike Williams, he's a paranormal investigator. He's a Fortean researcher as well, into the big cats, poltergeists, UFOs, the whole range of everything. He's been following my case for 10 years, and he's witnessed UFOs with me. He's seen them, actually, rods of light, what we can describe as rods of light, which we also caught on camera at a place called Tipperary in New South Wales. We're doing a bit of a sky watch at this place, and rods of light would come from up high, change directions multiple times, then fly into the ground and melt into the ground without any sound, nothing. It was just, they'd melt. And one flew right across down my arm and melted into the ground as I'm reaching down to grab a camera. And both Mike and I, Lance was there too, we jumped. I mean, we really jumped like 10 feet in the air. It scared the hell out of us. The following morning, we had the camera set up on the valley behind us. We recorded 13 of these same objects coming down from up high and flying into the valley behind us while our backs were turned, which was really, really bizarre. And so, yeah, it was a really weird experience. So he's seen all that stuff around me, and he tends to think that it's me, because there's a lot of strange electrical stuff that happens with me, and ghost things and poltergeist things flying off shelves, books coming out of the thing and flying off in front of multiple people. I had friends over one day, and we're outside the garage, and I had an office inside the garage, and all of a sudden we heard this big crash bang in the office, and we've run in, all 3 of us at the same time, and then the next second we've looked on the floor, and there's a photo frame standing up perfectly on its side, which had flown off the wall about 7 feet from itself. There was no earthquakes or anything. We couldn't work out how it did it, landing perfectly on its side, and the side was like about maybe 3 centimeters. It was very tiny. We tried to get it to stand up by itself with our own fingers. It kept falling over. So whatever, the chance of things like that happening is really, really weird.
Do you remember your mood that day? How were you that day?
Sometimes I was happy. I mean, I'm usually a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is a bit stressful, so I do get stressed out sometimes. Especially like when you can't explain it and you're really looking for an answer, and you kind of, it's like the phenomenon is that strange and that weird that you can't, once you think you know what it is, you kind of set back a little bit more. And that's why I keep saying to people who think they know what the phenomenon is, you don't really know what you're talking about. So anyone who says that, oh, because they're selling a book or they're doing this or that, most people have no idea because they're not experiencing it. But this subject's all about money anyway, about stories, about fanciful stories.
There's a large percentage of it is like that too. And the investigation part is kind of
you have to sort through the real and the
it's boring.
Who's getting stories off the internet and repeating them and making little twists to them and stuff like that. That's what I found out with me when I started doing presentations and conferences around Australia here, like a decade ago when I first started coming out. You get people trying to latch onto you. They'd steal parts of your story, then go at it onto their story, start calling themselves star kids or star children or whatever. And you're like, oh, wow. Meanwhile, these love and light people, they claim to love you and all this sort of stuff, but they're some of the most nastiest people I've ever come across in my life. I mean, these love and light brigades. So, I mean, I really... I try and stick with evidence.
We have that here in Canada too.
Yeah, I think they're all around the world, my friend.
You're not alone, man.
I think they're all around the world. Yeah.
So
can't do much about them.
How has these sightings? I guess. Okay, so you mentioned phenomenon. So I just want to be clear. When you say phenomenon, do you only mean the UFO orbs, bright orbs, or are you talking about paranormal? Like, have you ever seen?
I'm talking about paranormal.
Okay.
All phenomenon together. Mike and myself are working on a documentary at the moment called Haunted Skies, which goes into a lot of the connections between the different phenomenon. We've come up with about 23 possible definite connections, which are strange in themselves, but some you could like wipe aside, but some of them could be circumstantial coincidences, but some of them are like the fact that a lot of the phenomenon acts the same way. Okay, so there's an analogy that I like to use, which I stole from Mike. If you're listening, it's if you're a ghost hunter and you see a ball of light in your home, you're going to call it a ghost. If you're a farmer and you see a ball of light on your property, you're going to call it a min light or a mystery light, like in America with the Brown Mountain and all that sort of stuff. But if you're a ufologist and you see the same ball of light in the sky, you're going to call it a UFO. So there's a lot of parallels with the different phenomenon and the way they appear, disappear, the way they both affect animals, they affect camera equipment. They seem to give off a very similar signature when they appear and disappear as well, which can be picked up on tri-field meters, EMF there. If they both affect the Earth's magnetic field when they appear and disappear. So I'm postulating that what scientists call dark matter or ulterior universes or multi-dimensions or whatever you want to call it, that's possibly where these things are coming from. The universe is made of dark matter. We can't see it, but it's all around us. Apparently, there's mathematic models for it and everything, but we don't know what it is. So there's a possibility that all these things are coming from this same place and they're existing possibly alongside of us at all times. It's I know it sounds strange, but there's a good possibility that's happening. And and with the ET phenomenon as well, I mean, there's a chance that back in the days, like the old cases like in the 70s and whatnot, where you'd have the flying saucers come down and figures get out and, it'd be seen, like the case like Lonnie Zamora and other very well, publicized cases where actually beings have been seen getting out and taking samples and doing stuff. That could be beings from other planets, right? They wouldn't need to keep coming back once they've come here, once they already know what's going on. But we live in a universe that's possibly full of life, life we can't see, life we can see, life on other planets. I think it's all around us, and we're like ants or monkeys kind of speculating on something we really have no idea about. That's why I call it a paranatural enigma. The next documentary is Fractured Realities Part 2, a paranatural enigma, because I believe that a lot of this phenomenon that's taken place around us is natural. We seem to think it is paranormal, but I think it's a natural phenomenon. So it's around us, and I think it's part of our universe, it's part of our day-to-day life. We just don't see it. It's out of our spectrum. visible spectrum, but it's there. People can sense things, people can feel things. A lot of the experiences I've had have told me that there's something very, very strange going on. And apart from, I can't say much else apart from that. I mean, except for putting across a couple of hypotheses of what it could possibly be, but I still don't know myself.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. Like I'm trying to understand all the phenomenon too. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, the ultra spectrum is what we're calling, as we're trying to classify all these things and try to understand, if it's the same thing or something separate. But like that normality that you just explained there, I'm with you on that. Like if it's just paranormal in the sense because we don't understand it, but if it is just a normal natural thing and we ourselves are the conduits or something of that sense, then it is normal. We just don't understand. So like the terminology for sure is making it hard, and you're onto something, because like, yes, that's exactly same brains, exactly how I'm thinking with this too. So everything's positive. Like, have you ever had a negative experience? Anything?
Yeah, I've had some negative experiences. The sleep paralysis phenomenon.
Yeah.
I've had some really nasty ones of them. And also
comfortable
had an
sharing
experience.
at all, or?
Sorry?
Are you comfortable sharing those? If not, it's okay. I'm just.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll just make it brief. But I'd moved into this house. And I'm lying in the bed next to my partner, and she's fully asleep. I can't remember what time it is. Next second, the room started going this reddish color, and it was like a tinge because the moon was already shining through the room, and I was awake because I'd just lied back down on the bed 2 seconds earlier, slid my eyes open. And then the next second, the room started changing this reddish color. Then all of a sudden on the wall, I started feeling this pressure on my arm, on my left shoulder, pushing me down into the bed. And it was getting heavier and heavier. And as it's pushing me down, I'm looking at the wall to my left, and I couldn't move. And I'm trying to scream to Mel, going, "What's going on?" I'm trying to reach her. I couldn't move my hand. And on the wall is this big black mist that started developing, and it's spinning around and spinning, and it had little edges coming off it that were disappearing and little bits flying off it and everything. It was just spinning and spinning like it was a black hole or something, and you could put your hand through it and it would disappear. It was really, really strange. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, I've heard of this before. I've researched this phenomenon, and I know that I'm not a highly religious person, but I know that other people have said when they've mentioned the name Jesus that this thing has stopped. And I've seen that multiple times in my research with the phenomenon. And so in my mind, I thought, because I couldn't scream, I was making this strange sound while I'm trying to scream. I couldn't get anything out. But something was coming out. It was really weird. And the next second I thought Jesus, and then all of a sudden the pressure instantly lifted off me. This thing disappeared off the wall. The red tinge disappeared out of the room, and that was it. And I sat up and I'm like, Mel, and I woke her up, and she's like, "What happened?" I explained to her. Literally 3 days later, because I was in the other office down the other end in the other spare room, and I'd crashed out like there one night and on the spare sofa in there, and after, because I'd worked really late, and same thing happened again. I started feeling this pressure, and I'm watching. I was still awake. I know I was still awake, and inside the door, because I had the door closed, there's these lines, these straight lines started appearing. There's these eyes, these almond-shaped, glowing golden eyes like this started appearing. Just inside the door, had full parallax. You could see right around it. It wasn't attached to anything. It wasn't on the wall. It was down from the ceiling and in from the door. You could see it clear as. And it formed this head around these eyes with straight lines that weren't connected. They weren't connecting, but it looked like a transformer robot almost. It was absolutely bizarre, this thing. But as it was, the sense of fear and petrification, watching this thing, not being able to move, scream, say anything, it's an insanely scary experience. I'm sure you've had similar experiences yourself with the phenomenon. It's absolutely nuts. But I've never seen the shadow people in that phenomenon, the hat people, that old hag that a lot of people see. I don't see that phenomenon myself. I've never seen that. I've only had the experience twice, but it was petrifying. But 2 years ago, I did have an experience with UFOs, which was not nice at all, and it's left me probably a little bit shaken still to this day. And I left the UFO field and I stopped talking for groups and everything for about 8-9 months after that. I saw a light with my dog, and it was a purple ball of light. I've never seen a purple ball of light before. And it was like early in the morning. I was out in the garage working. I decided to have a break, get some fresh air. I went to the door. I'm looking up, and just the tree right next to the garage would have been about maybe 12, 13 feet in height. And just above the tree, this purple light appeared. With white radiating out to a purple exterior, which was glowing, this beautiful, intense radiating color. It was incredible. But one thing I noticed, even though it was right above the tree, it wasn't reflecting its light onto the tree. That's one thing I noticed. But my dog was sitting next to me, just watching this thing, not barking, not anything. He's seen a lot of UFOs, my dog, and over the previous 10 years and living here 10 years ago as well. And this thing, it just went poof, exploded in a ball, a light. There was just a white light. I instinctively raised my hand up in front of my face to protect my face. There was a warmth that came through me. I felt it. And then as soon as this warmth hit, my dog started barking. This thing was gone. The yard was all normal again. The bright white light had disappeared, except my eyes were stinging a little bit. But I didn't feel bad. I felt okay. So I went to bed. I crashed in the garage that night on the sofa. And the next morning I went in and saw Mel, and she said, "You got to look at yourself in the mirror." And sure enough, I did. And I was white, pale as a ghost, with red splotches all over my face and neck. My eyes were almost stuck together. I was in a real bad way. And over a period of about 3 or 4 days, I started developing this red mark on my arm so that night I was wearing a jacket because it was a cold night. And I started developing this red, almost like a sunburn through my jacket. And then over about a week or so, I started having seizures about 3 days afterwards, just before this started blistering out into these blisters, like these yellowy green blisters. We went to, I started having seizures, and during one of these, my dog started having seizures at the same time as well. I had to put my dog down eventually. And we spent 7 months going to the best specialists in Sydney, multiple doctors to get referrals to other special doctors that we couldn't get. We ended up at professors, skincare specialists, you name it, we went. They found out I had a rare bone disease called Hypophosphatemic Osteomalacia, which can be caused by exposure to radiation. And they said I had bones of like a 95-year-old woman at the age of 40. And they said that's impossible. It can't happen. Or a gene mutation can cause this particular disease. And it also mimics osteoporosis as well. Now, osteoporosis in a 40-year-old man is rare enough as it is, let alone this other disease which mimics it, which is actually 1,000 times rarer. And so they couldn't explain it. They said that one of the doctors, I actually broke my back during one of these seizures I had, and because my bones were that weak, I fell over and broke my back in 3 places. So during that time, I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. I'm basically lying down on a floor almost, on a bed, but trying to recover. And so this whole time, but my arm over this time, they couldn't work out how my arm melted basically off. The left side of my arm, I have the worst scar there now. It somehow melted my arm off. And the best specialists in Sydney couldn't work out what caused it. They thought I might have been near some island in northern Australia, some rare island, caught some weird bacterial infection or something. I'm like, no, I was been nowhere near an island, so really weird.
When I got your prep too, there was pictures attached to that, and I think some of those pictures were what you just described.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share that? Or
sure, go for it.
So that way the ones
it's been seen before, but if you're squirmish, look away.
Because I was gonna ask. I had it kind of prepped because I was gonna ask, but now that I have the story, this is really intense for blisters.
Yeah, it started getting like this after maybe 5 days. It started getting redder and redder and redder, and this is probably about a week and a half into it. And it started then blistering. And like it wasn't painful. There was no, you could touch it leading up to the blisters, and even during when I had the blisters, you could touch it, and there was no pain. Like if you got sunburnt, right, you could touch your skin, and you recoil because it's a little bit sore, right? I could feel nothing. There was nothing, which would
And that was the
indicate
same term you used to shield your eyes.
that's the same exactly. And so I don't know what was going on with it. It was just a really bizarre experience. It caused a lot of drama in my life. I left the field for several months, 9 months or something, and I just didn't want to talk about UFOs anymore. I thought these guys are evil. What was all that about? But one good thing that did come of it, and I won't know till another month anyway if my bones are 100% correct, because in Australia we have this law with bone density scans. Because of the amount of radiation in a bone density scan, you're only allowed to have one every 2 years. So I'm due for mine. It'll be 2 years this September when I've had it the last time. So I'll find out whether the all the treatments and everything that I've been on have actually worked, and the vitamins and all this sort of stuff they've had me on for the last 2 years. It's been absolutely insane.
That's like I've never heard anything like that at all. Like that is unique, and
it is pretty crazy. And
I mean, I don't blame you for leaving having something like that. But the thing that I'm just trying to wrap my head around with all this is, and what I was listening for is trying to try to understand the why, because you are some sort of beacon in some sense, because you're the main character in all these orbs things, and you're seeing multiple colors of orbs always. And then, but this one particular, small star supernova thing, kind of whatever happened. Do you think it was intentionally trying to cause harm to you, or that was just what was?
I don't know. Look, part of me thinks that maybe it was some sort of weird accident and it disappearing, because I've never seen one this color in my life, and I've filmed literally tens of dozens of them. I've seen literally probably hundreds of them during my life and never seen one this color. So it was really strange. Now, one thing that did come from this, which was a positive note, was the fact I went to, because they started saying it was affecting my heart. It's affected a whole bunch of different things all through my body over the last couple of years. But one thing that they did find, they found a 20 centimeter precancerous tumor in my stomach. And this was when I was going to specialists, went to a gastroenterologist, because I was trying to work out whether they thought I had pointers for different diseases, but they couldn't put their finger on celiac or lactose intolerance or this or that. And they were changing constantly what they were saying was wrong with me. And I was like, I was going on different diets, and then they say, no, that's not wrong with you, it's something else wrong, it's probably this. And then they say, no, it's not that, it's probably this. And it's like, it was insane, and we spent a lot of money going to different doctors trying to work out what was actually wrong with me. And still, this is a subject because of the stigma. You can't just go out to a doctor and say, this happened because I saw a ball of light that blew up in a white thing and it burnt me or something. You can't say that to a doctor, especially a professor. They'll think you're absolutely nuts. And
what did you end up saying though? Because you had to explain.
I did mention about, I said, I do work around radiation or possible radiation, some type of possible radiation, because I've had balls come up close to me in my life. Like I said, I've had that thing go down my left arm that melted into the ground. I've had red balls come up close to me a few times in my life. Yellow ball come up really close to me once. And who's to say that these things aren't giving off some sort of rate? They're not doing it on purpose. Maybe they're giving off. So if this thing hadn't happened, I wouldn't have found out about this tumor in my stomach, right? And I could be dead now. You know what I mean? So some see that as a positive. I see it as a positive in a way.
Well, yeah, you're alive. That's a very good positive.
That's some sort of positive, right? Yeah, man. So it was just but then everything else I've had to deal with over the past, and now I've got heart problems because of it, and high heart rate, blood pressure, and all this sort of stuff, and they can't work out what's causing it. And it's because I've got heart issues, and it's just all of a sudden all these medical problems have sprung from this one event. Whereas before that, I was fairly healthy. I mean, not the healthiest person on Earth. I'm not like an athlete running for a gold medal or nothing, but still, I was pretty healthy. But yeah, this really knocked me for a six.
This event, it was uninvited, right? Like you were when it came out.
No, it was random.
Yeah, it was random.
No, completely random. Like it was just it appeared and then just disappeared. within a few seconds, it was gone, you know. And
see, we've often talked about the risks with CE5 and seances and paranormal encounters, and I've
you don't
always
know what
talked
you're calling. You don't know what you're
exactly. And then
getting in.
this is the very thing that I imagine could be a scenario that could happen. So you're like, this is like I'm sorry, man. Like that is horrible.
Oh, don't be sorry, brother.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things that happens, man. You know, it's just
But you
life.
didn't
It
ask
is
for it.
strange.
You
I
got to be
started,
careful.
well,
But like,
I started looking into more and more during the time, like when I had my broken back. I started looking into more about the nasty side of UFOs than I ever had in my life, you know. And I've read cases like Colares, Brazil, and a few other cases of so-called human mutilation and stuff like that, where they can't explain what happened, where, you know, basically humans have been tampered with in ways that they cattle have been found tampered with, you know, like innards pulled out through little holes and stuff like that. Really strange laser cuts and all this kind of weird stuff. I mean, I started going down that road, and that was a bit dark for me. I was like, yeah, this is enough. I don't want to go anywhere near that kind of stuff. But it does happen. There are cases where people have been attacked and hurt by UFOs, and anybody who says that UFOs are all good, you have no idea, and you're not experiencing the real phenomenon. There is a cosmic trickster element to this phenomenon, and this phenomenon has changed itself over the eons to appear as different things to different people in different times in different parts of the world.
yeah.
And Jacques Vallée went into that a lot. And I mean, I grew up reading his books and everything, but it's not until experiencing it myself where I start to see a lot of the connections in what he's actually saying, and a lot of the connections in what they were talking about, just say, you know, 200-300 years ago in Ireland, strange abductions from, you know, certain creatures, and lights and rooms that are lit up and you can't see the light source and all this sort of stuff. And it rings true with today's, a lot of today's abduction cases and scenarios of being on craft and all this sort of stuff. They're reporting the same sort of things. And so, yeah, there's a possibility that's connected. But you know, there was the airship wave back in the 1890s, and where who knows if they were unknown German inventors at the time who were cruising around. But it wasn't until several years later the actual inventors started coming out and showing their wares in the sky. So who really knows? So these things seem to appear in ways just ahead of our own technology as to not completely freak us out. And then it would change to flying saucers. But there is the core element of the phenomenon, which is repeated all the way through history, seemingly for the last couple thousand years, been reports of these balls of light. The balls of light seem to be the BOL phenomenon, seems to be the core of this phenomenon. And then you've got the flying saucers and the Hollywood side of it and all that sort of stuff. I mean, in my life, I've seen one of these flying saucers in the year 2000. The best way I can describe it is it was a flying saucer. It was directly above the Olympic Stadium that I was working on at the time, 2 weeks before the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And we're doing some work on these stairs where the journalist boxes were down underneath. And right at the end of the day, and I had sweat in my eyes, and I've looked up, and here's this thing. It's stopped directly above, and it had a bubble hanging out the bottom of it, and it had a coppery color thing, which what looked like writing almost, but it wasn't writing. It was like connected little black lines around the perimeter that was spinning around while this bubble in the middle was staying. And it kind of didn't look like a metallically chrome colored thing. It was slightly different than that, but it came to a near stop, didn't fully stop, then it went, boom, it was gone straight out towards Sydney, towards the Sydney city, and that was it. And I said to the guy, the electrician who was near me, I said, "Did you just see that?" And he's like, "See what?" And I said, "The thing above us that stopped and flew off." And he goes, "No, mate, I think you've had too much sun today." He thought I was hallucinating or something. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. I'll deal with that. It's fine." But yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a bit strange, but and also in the backyard here, when people come in here 10 years ago, I was with another well-known Australian UFO guy, and we had our cameras set up. I had about 10 batteries from my camera, maybe 10 to 12 batteries, and all fully charged during the day. We'd made sure all of them were charged for that night, and we'd set our tripods up. He had a brand new camera with 3 batteries, I think, 3 brand new batteries, all fully charged during the day. I checked his batteries, he checked mine. Sure enough, we saw this thing coming from a distance, very low on the angle, coming up over the yard, towards the yard, and it had multiple colored lights around the front end of it. We couldn't see like around the sides. They seem to go around the side in almost like a circular kind of pattern. They look like porthole windows which were lit up, and the lights were changing color in a rhythmic kind of pattern as this thing was coming over us. Now, we started filming. I got one photo before one of my cameras died. The battery just completely drained. And you can see these lights a little bit out of focus, but you can see them. And then one after the other, both his and my batteries failed while this thing glided silently. It was huge, glided silently over the yard. No sound, no anything, couldn't hear anything coming from it. The batteries would start off full battery power and then drain zero battery power within a second, just gone. And we've seen this time and time again, and not just with UFO, but with other paranormal phenomenon when it seems to be around. It seems to drain power for some reason, which is really strange in itself.
Sorry, yeah, I'm into this. I didn't expect you to stop. I was like right into that. So
I could keep going on, man.
Hey, no. Hey, we still got an hour. And
literally, if you got a
so,
couple weeks, like if this goes for 2 weeks, I could blabber.
I have a question. Like, here's the thing too: is like I've always, I hear lots of good things about Australia, and then it's like, you know, I've written Australia off because of your giant spiders and your giant snakes and your giant
Everyone
creatures,
does. It's not that bad.
But well, now you got freaking UFOs that's chasing you all over the place. So I don't know, you know. But you know, all kidding aside, I'm curious, especially with the way that the world is now open to UFOs with the United States. Talking about that Pentagon thing. So I'm curious to know your opinion on that and how that compares to, I guess, the Australian government in terms of disclosure or approach to the UFO phenomenon.
Well, we follow everything that you guys, or the American government, I should say, do. So if the American government were to come out and officially say, I'm not talking about recently with the Pentagon release, that was nothing. That was basically, oh yeah, there's a bunch of small bunch of cases here we've looked at. They're all very strange, but if we had more information, we could probably solve them as something benign and ordinary, not something out of this planet. So they're basically just sort of pushing it aside. A 9-page report on the most spectacular, you know, incredible phenomenon to ever visit or ever be around us, you know, it's just a joke and a slap in the face for all these people who've been waiting for disclosure. Now, I've always said disclosure is not going to come from the governments, and even if it did, a lot of people don't believe the governments anyway. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of people take everything they say as complete gospel. What did come of that Pentagon release for me was it got people talking about the phenomenon, and that's what we need. We need people talking about it openly, not in a sarcastic kind of, you know, take the mickey out of this person because he's crazy kind of way. This is a subject that's so important. I mean, what philosophers for thousands of years have been trying to work out who we are, why we're here, this whole thing. And as far as I can see, I mean, if anyone would know what we are and who we are and why we're here, it's these things that have been visiting us and watching us for how many eons. And there's that side part too, which goes, we could be possibly an experiment of some type. And so with a scientist, when you create something like bacteria in a petri dish, you don't jump in with the bacteria and live with them. You watch from afar, you observe, you know. Every now and then you might add something, or you might do something little or whatever, but no, you pretty much keep your hands off and you observe. Now, it seems to be what they are doing. They're observing us on a deeper, more a very strange level than more than what we could possibly know. I believe that they're around us a lot of the time. We just, like I said before, we can't see them, and they are crossing over from somewhere. And I don't think it's just from other planets and they're coming here and they're doing stuff. I think that's a part of the phenomenon, but there is the core phenomenon. Say, for instance, 500 years ago in Germany, there was a case where a gentleman, he was seen by members of this town, a lot of people, walking over a bridge heading into the town in Germany near Nuremberg, I think. And they witnessed a red ball of light following him just above his head, similar to what I had when I was 9, and it was mimicking his movements. And they all described it the same way. When he would stop walking, it would stop. When he would continue walking, it would move with him. Now, this is exactly what happened with me. I didn't find out about this case until Jacques Vallée and Chris Orbeck released a book about 2 years ago called Wonders in the Sky, where they had a whole bunch of things. They went through history and they found all these cases of recordings of possible UFO sightings. Now, they threw out a lot of the ones that, it could be this, or it could be misconstrued, it could be a meteorological phenomenon or a natural phenomenon of some type, which a lot of this stuff is, misidentified as. And but this thing, how can they say? Now, what happened is this guy walked into town, he walked over this bridge, and everyone in town was shutting their doors, and they didn't want him to come anywhere in because they saw it as an omen, a bad omen, this red light following him into town. They didn't want nothing to do with him, so he kept walking through the town. This thing got him or took off, who knows. But it's cases like that. There've been reports like that going back, and you can't really misconstrue that as a natural phenomenon following someone's head and mimicking their movements directly above their head. I mean, and from what I saw, when I heard about that case, I was blown away because that gave me, I'd never heard of a case like that before, and that gave me a little bit of a boost in a way, because I thought, at least I know what I experienced was 100% real when I was 9. Like it's still such a memory for me. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Like I'm looking at it, I can see it in my mind's eye. It was such an event, a big event in my life, same as the one when I was 12 with my brothers. Like for years afterwards, we'd catch up, and that would be the first thing we'd talk about. I remember, it'll be one of the first things that comes up is, remember that UFO we saw when we were kids, and it really affected all of us, but I guess me more so, because I'm the one who started getting into it more so and researching it more and looking into it more. And so I have found, you mentioned before it may be me, but what I found is when you show interest in the phenomenon shows interest back in you. And I think that could be part of what's going on here.
Well, there's a lot of parts. There's a lot, why you and not me? Why, or somebody else? Like, what is it about you that makes this happening to you and your friends and in that particular area? You got to look into all those things. There's so many variables to measure, and you as an individual investigator with your team, you've obviously done your research on your own, and you've come to these conclusions based on your own analysis, and we're on the same page. But we need more of a that communion kind of working together and sharing kind of data.
We're on the outer edge of this thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people who connect the phenomenons together or who experience multiple phenomenon, it happens more than what people think. And this is why there's another connection with me, is if you experience the aerial phenomenon, you're more likely to experience phenomena in your house or strange haunting poltergeist type phenomenon. It happens too. It's like with John Keel with the Mothman prophecies, and in that town in Point Pleasant at the time, they were seeing lights in the sky, they were seeing weird creatures flying about, and they were having poltergeist activity down below all at the same time over this short period, and then it all just stops. When the bridge collapsed, and then so who knows? There was some strange stuff happening.
It either
like in
all
these hot
exists.
spots.
Yeah, exactly. It either all exists or it doesn't, and so it's and all of it has to be. And connected.
There's evidence pointing that a lot of this is existing, because it's showing up on camera. It's showing up. It's not just something that your eyes are seeing, and you're not. Because if you're crazy, that means your camera's crazy too. If your camera's picking it up, and that means the guy next to you is crazy as well, and everyone around you is crazy if they're seeing it too. So it's either a shared hallucination or it's real.
Have you ever gotten any reports of these orbs and these lights now that you've seen them yourself, so you can vouch that they exist? But what if they don't have any physical evidence? What if they're seeing it in their mind? Is it possible that they're still having an experience? But just it's a it's not.
It could be tailor-made for people's minds. It could be tailor-made for people's minds. What I found as strange about the phenomenon with a lot of the abduction scenarios is that it happens during the sleep period, when your mind is switched off and you're in a different kind of wavelength. Some could say, when you're at your weakest, some could say, right? It's same as sleep paralysis, when you're just in between going to sleep and still partly awake. Seems that that's when you're at your weakest and when things can sort of start hammering you. But that's when a lot of the abduction starts taking place, and people wake up in their beds as normal.
Be when the mind is the strongest.
It could be too. It could be,
right?
but you're not in ways. You're not, especially in your sleep. I mean, unless you're lucid dreaming, you're not really thinking that much. Unless you're in a dream, thinking, "Oh wow, I'm in a dream. This is incredible."
Yeah.
So, but even that, I love lucid dreaming, that kind of stuff too. All the phenomena. Since I was young too, I haven't been just researching UFOs and whatnot. Actually, when I was 7, my mum had a book about the Bigfoot, about monsters, a little novel, soft-covered novel from the 70s, and she had that in the library. So my mum had a little bit of an interest, and so I'd read that when I was like 7. So I have an interest in all the different phenomena and ghosts and stuff like that. So I do think that it sort of makes you more well-rounded with one phenomenon if you know about all the other crazy stuff that's happening too, because then you can start seeing little weird, strange connections between them. And so for Haunted Skies, we're going to be showing at least 24 of these strange connections that we've found between multiple phenomena around this Earth. And some of the connections are very, very strange and very, in your face, you could say. So
once it's ready, how can people find that?
We'll probably putting that up on YouTube Movies, maybe Amazon. Not sure yet, but this is going to be one of the better ones I've made. Paranatural Enigma. I made that completely myself with a few people. It's got a lot of witnesses. That's out there on YouTube, so people can watch that for free.
So what's the name of the channel? What's the name of the channel? Direct them to it.
Oh yeah, it's under a channel called Damien Nott or Damien Nott, which is my name, Nott. And just type that into YouTube and it'll come up with my channel. There's a whole bunch of different things on there. There's also an AAPI channel, which is Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations. That has a lot of my other sightings, a lot of my older videos and photographs in it as well. The new one has a lot of the newer stuff, but I'm still keeping a lot of the better footage over the past couple of years, especially because I've got better cameras now, and I'm sort of holding. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. So and show everyone, I've just seen this today and blah blah blah. And it's a big competition with people around the world. I'm not interested in competing with people, the UFO hunters and everything. And I saw something today. I'm the best. And I'm like, no, well, no. The egos in this field are just incredible, man. So you just got to be down to earth, I think, and just have an open heart to the phenomenon. And also not have you go down the rabbit hole. Everyone seems to go down the rabbit hole and they get stuck down there. And once you get down there, it's really hard to sort of like crawl your way back out. I've gone down there a couple of times. I'm lucky I managed to get out of it. But there's all these.
I think we're in one right now.
Yeah, we probably are. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, just everything around is probably some sort of weird rabbit hole. So yeah, but it's a strange thing, and we don't know much about the world around us. We know hardly anything about the bottoms of our own oceans, let alone the upper atmosphere, which we've hardly ever explored. We don't know what's up there. We don't know what's in space, really. We have no real idea what's going on around us, but we like to think we know because it makes humans feel like they're in control. Like there's nothing to worry about if we know what's going on. But if you introduce all these strange little scary mysteries and people think, we're being watched all the time, it would freak a lot of people out. Yeah, no doubt. Back in the 70s, and they did studies working out what would happen if the government came out and told the general public that UFOs do exist. And it would create, religions would collapse, and all this stuff that they said would go on. Societies would revolt, people would take to the mountains, and all this sort of stuff. And there was a good example of this during the War of the Worlds broadcast by Orson Welles back in the day. And it was only to one small part of New York City, right? People in there were going crazy. They actually thought Martians were coming. They'd killed the National Guard. They're on their way. They're going to smash you guys. So everyone's heading to the mountains. People were robbing from each other, stealing from they were just going crazy and trying to get out there and packing all their belongings and disappearing. And they found out it wasn't real, but it caused a lot of. So based on that, they worked out that, it would maybe affect people. But nowadays, I think because a lot more people have turned away from religion, so we're not as religious as what we used to be. I think and because of the internet, a lot of more people are open-minded to other possibilities that we may not be alone, or there's something else going on that may be beyond our understanding. So people are more open to that now, and I think the internet's got a lot to do with that.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that after the break. Okay, so we made it to the hours. That was a good quick hour. Wow. So we're going to pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association, and you will see the videos that go with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have the sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer, to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon. Welcome back. You are still listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you are enjoying this episode so far, please consider becoming a member of our channel or send us a super chat. Your membership will get you bonus content like exclusive videos, and it will help us reach our goal for launching our training center, which is Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies. Also, if you've ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tessacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand this phenomenon and how it affects our people. Let the others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do. And for that, we thank you. We are still here with Damien Nott. And I'm trying to think carefully where I want to go with this, because I feel like we're going to spend another hour talking about it. So, okay, I'm gonna. So a lot of UFO events, a lot of encounters, a lot of things. Who or what is behind the operation of these things?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Really?
I got $1 million. Tell me the answer.
Well, it doesn't mean I have $1 million answer for you, unfortunately. But yeah, it is crazy. It does seem to be possibly the same source where this comes from, or they may be different things altogether. But there is so many similarities that it's not funny. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to point that out and stuff. But one thing I have noticed is not just in towns where you have like stuff up happening above, you have stuff happening below. It seems to be that different areas around the world seem to be like, for instance, hotspot areas, right, where this stuff happens constantly. Now, this place in Tipperary, it's a very tiny, very sparsely populated farming community, and this area, it was like an old meteor. It looks like an old meteorite's hit the ground, spewed up some mountains around it in this perfect circle, and now it's filled in with these pine trees all the way through. Now, this place is really crazy. There's farms, a couple of farms dotted around, and every single person in these farms were experiencing very, very strange phenomenon in their homes, and also seeing lights above this area. And this may be, a kilometer in diameter, so it's not that big, this mountainous sort of enclosed area, but it is highly strange. Now, there's all areas like that where there seems to be repeat phenomenon around the world. Now, some people call this like there's a portal in that area, and for these are human words talking about stuff we have no idea about, right? We don't really know what's a portal. I mean, we're just humans using human words. They wouldn't call whatever they're doing portals. Who knows? When I say they, I'm talking about whatever this phenomenon is. It may not be a they. That's how strange it is. Like 33 years ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said it was aliens from Mars, right? Or little green or gray men or whatever. But now, like the more that you find out about the phenomenon, the less you actually really know. I mean, you can find out, you can look at little characteristics of what UFOs do in the sky, and certain UFOs do these kind of things, and other UFOs are more situated doing these kind of things. Like there's certain types that are involved in the cattle mutilation phenomenon, like the orange balls of light. Then you've got the red balls of light that seem to mimic aircraft a lot, and also mimic humans. And then you've got the white balls of light, i.e. the Foo Fighters, that would mimic aircraft movements back in World War II. And even still to this day, they're following planes on wingtips and little balls of light. I mean, some people call that a natural phenomenon, possibly St. Elmo's fire or something like this, but not the way that they react and the way that they sort of these aren't growing off the wingtips. These things are actually, we've got pilots. I get reports of pilots doing S-turns and everything, and these things following them, doing S-turns along with them, mimicking exactly what the pilots are doing up above. So they're doing the same thing above as to what they're doing to humans down here, which is very, very strange. So you can work out characteristics about certain craft and what they do, but apart from that, I mean, you can take photos and videos, right? And even if you had the best camera in the world, a billion megapixel camera from NASA or whatever, it's still going to show you a light. It's not going to show you what's behind that light. It's not going to show you what's inside of it. It's not going to show you where it comes from or what it is. It's just going to show you a slightly clearer light. I mean, and so a lot of people, what they assume or think, they think, oh, with today's technology, a lot of people still in their minds, especially people who've never experienced the phenomenon, seem to think that it's all flying saucers out there. They've been Hollywoodized. by Hollywood to think that they're these big craft and solid objects and that you can touch and feel and take metal off and they can crash and we can get evidence. And this is a human trait to think this way. We need something we can grab to get evidence. But with the UFO phenomenon, these balls of light can split into two, split into three, disappear and suck in on themselves and do all the most incredible things that these flying saucers can't do. So they seem to be either newer, different technology or different something, but what's seen now today, I think it's something like 80% of what's reported to me and around the world as well. Different places are different. Obviously, the US has different, like they see a lot more of the triangular craft than what we do down here, for instance. And the delta wing craft and all that sort of stuff. But the phenomenon that's repeating all around the world is the BOL type phenomenon. The BOL type UAP is the balls of light. They are continuous, and whatever's under them, who knows? It could be a flying saucer under them, but we don't know. There was that theory back in the day that they give off a type of ionizing radiation, these flying saucers, and they interact with the oxygen around them, causing the glow around the craft, and that's why you can't see through them sometimes. And there's that theory as well, and so who knows? But if my own experience is anything to go by, especially with that ball of light, yeah, there's a possibility they do have some sort of radiation in them or around them, and it's possibly dangerous for humans. So I mean, but
I think it is dangerous. You know firsthand.
Whether they know it themselves is another thing. Now, if they knew that that was dangerous for, just say, me and people in Colaris and other people who've had strange, bad experiences with these things, then why would they do it unless they don't know about it? And then it's just a little side thing, and that would show me that they're not really as intelligent as what we'd like to think they are.
What would stop them from taking over the world? Are they? Yeah, they're weird and they're bizarre, and we're trying as civilians trying to understand it. Does the government actually know what it is, and they're allowing it, manipulating it? Like someone has to know the answer. We don't know the answer because we're not privileged to the information. But does the government not know?
I don't believe they know. I believe that they're just as in the dark in this phenomenon as those of us who've been researching
then let's
it for
roll
years.
With that.
And this is why they're keeping it still a secret.
Yeah, because they don't want to admit they don't know, right? They don't want to admit they don't know. And
there's on the flip side of that, if it is something they know about and it's something that is nasty or something that is not quite, that would also explain why they don't tell people and why they rubbish and ridicule the subject so everyone looks the other way. So there's two.
What's stopping the phenomenon from taking over?
Well, like I said before, if we are an experimentation, if we are some sort of experiment in life, then why would you want to take over your own experiment and show that you're more superior than something that you're already superior over? That would make no sense. Now, the ultimate thing that any intelligent life form can do is create another intelligent life form. And this is what, possibly we are. We are well, some could call us intelligent. If you look at the news daily, you wouldn't see too much intelligence in the world.
It's subjective, yeah.
Yeah, it is quite. But yeah, we still make the same mistakes we were making thousands of years ago, as humans. But we're growing up.
If it's an experiment, like to me, with your experiences, it just reminds me of someone holding a laser pen and playing with their cat for it just seems very sporadic. And
like an indifference almost sometimes they feel indifferent, sometimes they're not, so who really knows what they're about?
Are they trying to teach you, majority though, are they trying to teach you or show you something, or do you think they're just messing with you? Are they just playing or toying? How do you feel on a whole, majority of it?
Most of the phenomenon I've had some really good experiences with, and when I say that, I mean there's been a whole lot of high strangeness involved in it. Like times when I've gone outside and I've looked up with the purpose of seeing a UFO and spent hours out there with people, nothing at all, nothing. And then other times I'll just go out, take the garbage bin out and look up at the sky, and right in the spot where I look will be a UFO. It just appears out of nowhere, right where I'm looking, out of all the whole vast sky. There it is. And then it will start doing all sorts of things and take off, and you're like, wow, was that meant for me? You can't help but think these things when it happens multiple times. And there's a whole bunch of other strange things. It's like they know when you're pointing at certain parts of the sky. it's a whole bunch of weird things too. Like, for instance, there was a documentary, a Canadian one that came out recently with Rob Freeman. I was in that a few years ago. They interviewed me after a conference talk for 4 hours about UFOs up at the Gold Coast. And I came outside on a balcony, which was about maybe 7 stories up. And there's about 15 of us out there, or 10, 15 of us out there. And they've interviewed me for the documentary, sat down and done it. And Rob Freeman has this gigantic rig where he has multiple different cameras on it. He's
the
got
weapon
his 70
of mass destruction, or mass
weapon
detection.
of mass detection. That's the one. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was brilliant. And so he's got his $70,000 thermal, and he's got all these other ones. And so I'd never seen through a thermal 5 years ago like this, like nothing like that. Right? I was like, incredible. And I'm looking at it going, wow. And he goes, do you want to have a look through it? And I said, yeah, please. And so he's like, yeah, switched it on. And as soon as I look through it, on the other side is a old school, what you would call flying saucer, except it wasn't your regular flying saucer. It had a fully flat bottom, had rounded sides, fully symmetrical on both sides, except at the top, instead of a big dome, it had the tiniest little notch, like a tiny dome, like really tiny. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a practical joke. I've said this before, and it's probably getting old, but, you know, I reached around and I scratched because I thought they'd had a sticker on the other side or something. So I'm reaching around going, oh, you think these guys are having a joke with me, you know? And but no, it wasn't. Then it started moving to the right. I'm like, oh my God, we're 7 stories up. There's high-rise buildings all around us in the Gold Coast. And this thing goes, and I said, oh my God, Rob, you need to see this. And he's looked through and he's seen it too. Moved between 2 buildings. We could all see that it was recording because the red light was like flashing. And he's like, yeah, it's recording, it's recording. And he's like, this is incredible. And there's all these people out there. And I filmed the sky at the same time. You couldn't see anything with a normal, regular 4K camera. The human eye was not picking up this thing either. But the thermal camera was giving off a heat signature, an infrared signature, this thing. And it moved between these 2 buildings and out to the ocean, because we were right next to the ocean when this happened. And we're all thinking this is the most incredible, like, here we are, I've just done a talk about UFOs and a documentary part about UFOs. And then the very same minute later, here's a UFO sitting in the Gold Coast, straight directly across from where we're looking, right in the end of the thermal camera. Right now, the chances of that happening are just absolutely minuscule, and the chances of other people seeing it as well are minuscule, you know. And Rob's seeing it, and it's gone between these buildings and it's gone out to the ocean, right? And so not 20 minutes later or something, they said, oh, we're going to go back to the hotel room, look at the footage, and we'll bring it down to your hotel room. So I was like, yeah, no worries. Went back up to my hotel room, got a knock on the door. They opened the door, they're all looking dejected. It's like, oh, what's up, guys? And, oh, you're not going to believe what's happened. I'm like, oh, I knew something bad.
Didn't record?
Yeah. Well, get this right. This part of the strangeness. It actually recorded the audio, but not the video part. So the video part was fully black with electronic interference running through the whole thing. So whatever this was, and this was the first time before or after, it's never happened since, to that $70,000 thermal camera. Never ever happened. Only when this UFO was there moving across, and it interfered somehow. And this has happened multiple times with us. So there's the whole thing where people think, was it on purpose? Was it by accident? Was it a side effect of whatever the craft is giving off, or whatever the case is? Is it affecting but I think sometimes that it seems to be more on purpose than anything, which is really strange. So what I found strange about the phenomenon, some of it lets you film it without a problem at all. Other parts of the phenomenon seem to stop your cameras, drain your batteries, empty your memory cards, mess with the footage. It is completely and utterly bizarre. And so I mean, when you think you know the answer, it throws you a curveball every time. So it's really strange. We
also don't know who's controlling them too. So we could have a variance of pilots as well, and a variance of reasons to hide.
Exactly.
We got to capture one. Some of the comments here too. I know that Christopher, he was asking, and Chantel clarified there. He was asking specifically if you tried to connect spiritually, and Chantel clarified with human initiated contact. So have you ever tried to intentionally call a UFO, and did you receive an answer?
Without sounding too new agey, I've had a couple of experiences where like with the lady here with the UFO group and the journalist as well, that was one of them, where I actually literally thought about it at the time. Guys, now would be the perfect time to come. And then within 5 seconds, two of them have flown over the roof, and the timing was just, it makes you think that was somehow connected. And then there's been a couple other times as well, but then there's been other times too where I've just absolutely gone out there thinking, guys, and I've been feeling special, like they're going to come tonight and all this, and nothing. And I've sat out there for hours and froze my hands off. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, so sometimes it seems to work, sometimes it doesn't. And I think it may have to do with the frame of mind that you're in as well. There may be something to do with that, but it's really hard to say. I try not to go down that road as much as possible, because again, that can be a bit of a rabbit hole as well, when you think that I'm special and they're coming here just for me because I can call them in my mind and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't work all the time. Now, I've done CE5s before with groups, and I've been invited by UFO groups and stuff like that to do them, and I've done them with big names in the States who've come over here as well, and absolutely no luck. And we've had people pointing out satellites and calling them UFOs, and I'm like, what? And these are like so-called big names in the CE5 field. I'm like, no, that's a satellite, and trying to convince people they're UFOs. And so ours, no UFOs. I've gone off to a separate part of the beach or over the cliff away from everybody in the group, and a UFO's appeared, and I've caught it on film. I think 2 out of the 3 CE5s that I've done, I've disappeared from the group and filmed incredible UFOs away from the group that no one else in the group saw, which was really weird, and shown them all, came back and showed them all straight away. So that part of it's really weird too. It makes you think, what's going on here? If all these guys and they're getting in the same mindset, and they're not appearing for them, but they're appearing when I just walk away from them where they can't see, you're thinking, what's going on here? It's really weird. Kind of doesn't make you think that it has something to do with you personally as well. You can't help but think that, but at the same time, I put that to the back, and I try not to get. You can't get an ego in this field. You can't. And everyone tells you this, you're that, you're a portal. I can't go to a UFO conference without someone call me a UFO magnet or a UFO portal or this or that. That's
there was
just
a
to sell a
comment like
ticket
that tonight too. So I mean,
you can't win. You can't win. And I'm just me. You know what I mean? I'm not anything special. I'm just. I don't know what it's about. I wish I knew, honestly.
Obviously, you must be special, because from whatever that is, I'm sure you have things in common with other people as well.
Maybe it's because I look up at the sky more than most. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's, if you don't look up, you're not going to see, right?
You're not going to see it. Yeah. Most people, as you know, they go to work and do their 9, except for, pre-COVID days, you go to work 9 to 5 and you'd be like, looking down at your feet, and then hardly anyone looks up in the sky, unless there's a beautiful sunrise or sunset or something like that. And you're like, oh, wow, that's great. And then you continue doing your thing. And like we do on ants, like ants on this earth, we do our own little thing, and yeah, we just, that's why I tell people, you got to see the phenomenon to believe it. A lot of people who are like, skeptical about it, you don't believe me that it's real. Don't believe all the books. Don't believe all that. You need to see it to believe it, as the old saying goes. And I say it to everybody. So.
No, I agree. So Moonlight, or I can never know if it's light or lich. Moon, we'll call you Moon. He mentioned as above, so below, and I wanted to highlight that because I was thinking to myself, what about underwater submergible or submergible objects, or unidentified submergible objects?
They exist 100%. And not just underwater as well, under earth as well. These things, I've got them on video, infrared, on regular camera, coming down from up high, stopping, then zipping off at another angle, stopping again, and then diving into mountain ranges just here multiple times now. And I've got these big cigar looking things and these tic tac looking yellow things hovering above the mountain. It's just in this one area where there's these crazy minerals in the ground. Iron, stone, we've got quartz crystal running through this entire town, going down kilometers into the ground. Now, what I found is areas like this seem to attract certain things. There's another area near Esperance in Western Australia here, which actually has the same minerals in the ground. You've got your ironstone or iron ore, and you've got quartz crystal in the same area. Now, storms in this town rarely come into actual town. They always sit right on the outskirt, right on the edge of where this crystal vein is, and the lightning just crazy. Same as this place in Western Australia, Esperance, where these two minerals are in the ground in high quantities. Seems to be, so maybe that's why they're attracted to this town. I don't think it's any person in particular. I think that it's just that, who knows, there's a bunch of reasons. I always try and look at natural ways that I guess you could say that UFOs are attracted to certain areas because of this or gold or whatever the case is. Not so much for human beings, because like sometimes you can go for months without seeing a thing, and then all of a sudden 2-3 days in a row you're seeing UFOs again. Then you're not seeing nothing for another few months or a few weeks, and then you might see something.
Maybe they're working a 9 to 5. They got kids and family to take care of too. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, as far as I know, they don't have sexual organs, but it'd be a bit hard. But hey,
just as much as there's multiple species of us, there could be multiple species of them. Like, I mean, someone, like, we just gotta capture one. We were talking on the podcast. So I was on a radio show last night, The Outer Realm as well. And one of the questions was like, how do we get better evidence for alien abductions? And I just said, well, why don't you, put a hidden camera in your pajamas? Like being a PI, that was kind of like, we need better, I think
it was a logical, exactly.
I think we can get the evidence. It's just the things happen so fast and so random. We don't have time to be like, hold on a second,
And there's no absolute, you can't say that even if you did have the camera set up that it would work in the end anyway because of the electrical interference.
Well, they're probably watching us do that, and they're like, okay, well, I'm leaving now.
We already know, so let's play some more practical jokes on this.
Okay, I'm leaving
let's have a bit of fun with him. He thinks he's smart. We're smarter.
This is gonna be good.
Exactly.
Okay, so Moon, I'm calling you Moon. Moon says, Ryan and Damien, we often hear about wondrous things that aliens do with their technology, but are there wonderful things they do for humanity? Good question. What do you think?
Are there wonderful things they do for humanity? Well, I guess opening up our minds, it's pretty wonderful. It opens up the mind of anybody I know who's seen it. It changes their life. I mean, it changed my life when I was a kid, and I was like the freak. I couldn't even, like, I used to get in trouble all the time talking to, that's probably a bad side of it too, is like when you talk to other humans about it and they think you're nuts or you're crazy. And so, I mean, in my life, I used to go to a Catholic school, and I was taught by brothers, really strict brothers with canes and everything. And, I used to ask my religion teacher, Brother Benedict, and he was like 186 or something. He was, ancient. And he used to always, I'd say, when we're the center of God's creation, he'd say, and I'd be like, okay, but what about the red light that I saw and the blue lights and all that? And I'd always get kicked out of class, and then have to go out sit outside the principal's office till the end of the lesson or something like that. And because I was a bit of a smart ass, I always used to ask every time I was in his class pretty much, so I didn't have to. But so you've got the good part where it opens your mind, but then opens your mind and to a possibility that, hey, wow, life is not what we think it is. It's incredible. I think if that happened to everybody, I mean, some people would freak out, obviously, right? But other people too, we wouldn't just see ourselves as, like all our life is work, 9 to 5, toil, work your whole life and slave away and then die, or have kids and then die or whatever. And people would think, oh wow, there is actually more to our existence. The fundamental basis of certain philosophies around the world, like where do we come from? Who are we? Why are we here? These are all fundamental questions this phenomenon could possibly answer. But the phenomenon is so, I mean, that's one of the good things that this phenomenon does. It's a wonderful thing. It opens people's minds. It changes people, sometimes for the better, and most of the time for the better, from what I've seen. And but at the same time, it also brings on massive egos. It brings out the hoaxes in the world, brings out the cult leaders, it brings out the wannabes, it brings out you name it, So there's good and bad with everything, and who knows, there could be other things they're doing without our knowledge to help us. We don't know at the end of the day. So
Okay. Nancy, thank you for sending that super sticker. Normally, or that super chat. Normally, people ask questions with that. So if you have a question, ask that, and we'll get that in. And thank you so much for that contribution. And I also wanted to point out too that I saw our Christopher Lee had said you have a new subscriber, so he's now subscribing to your channel. So
thank you, sir.
So hey, thanks for chatting out. And then Serena, I saw you popped in there, so thank you. Welcome tonight. And what did you say, Moon? English speakers can call me Moonlit. Okay, lit. All right. Okay, but I'm still calling you Moon. Sorry, man. Oh, all right. So, okay, what about parapsychology? Where are you with that science and that study, focusing on the mind, moving, manipulating objects, and things like that? And is it connected to this UFO phenomenon, or is that separate?
Well, look, if the UFO phenomenon is somehow connected to humans, then there's a possibility that other phenomenon we don't know about is connected to us as well. So, I've followed the work of Dr. Barry Taft, the parapsychologist over there in the States, and his work on certain haunting cases and that, and other parapsychologists as well. I find it quite fascinating what they're looking into. One small story that happened to me a couple of years ago, I was contacted by Harvard Medical School, and they wanted, by a postdoctoral scholar, and they wanted me to be part of a study which I was referred to by a well-known gentleman in this field. And it was in regards to enter this study, you've had to have over 15 UFO sightings in your life proven with witnesses, every single one of them, and also evidence for every single one of them, i.e. photo, video, for that kind of thing, and also some physical contact trace or some sort of physicality that you came in contact with this UFO. So I ticked all those boxes apparently, and because of my arm and because of what happened, and I actually spoke about it and everything. So I got accepted into the study. Now, the study was about MRI scans and the brain. They found, and what I was told, I did this long Zoom call with them, and prior to this, and what they found was they were giving MRI scans to people's brains who, and I don't know how many, I don't know the full details because that wasn't my position to ask, but they found that a certain part of the brain is lit up in an MRI that's not lit up in regular MRIs, only in people who are witnessing and having multiple paranormal phenomenon happening around them. And this was really strange. Now, I was meant to send over, MRIs with the part of my brain lit up and all this sort of stuff. And within a couple of weeks of being asked, and it was up to about a month afterwards as well, I had everything happen. I lost my website. I lost a public figure page with 10,500 people on it. I lost even my Facebook was hacked. I got that back eventually after I proved it was me. And it just, I lost so much in this month period. I was like, okay, someone doesn't want me to do this study. That's what it came across as, because I had one thing after another. And I was even saying, you've been hacked, and all these warnings coming up and constantly. And I lost everything, all my work. I lost my website. My API website went down completely. It even said when you click on it, it's been hacked or something else has happened or whatever. And like, what, just all of a sudden. And that had years worth of my work on it. I mean, a lot of work had gone into that website, and then just boom, as soon as I agreed to do this thing for Harvard, whammo, I was like, yeah, okay. So I backed away, but I found that interesting because, and that's the reason why I wanted to be part of it. I kind of thought that they were trying to look at the parapsychological angle more so than, i.e. possibly this could be something that the human mind is creating. Hence, this part of the brain lighting up, and they don't know what that part of the brain does, apparently. So I was thinking, hey, well, that would be interesting because I could add that to my own research, what they find out in regards to this experiment. But I don't know how many people were actually selected, how many people fit that criteria around the world with physical evidence, multiple UFO sightings, videos, photos, witnesses. So I really don't know, like the inner depths of it, but I found it fascinating. So if they're thinking that it's something that we're projecting out there or that we're putting up there, that doesn't explain how other people are seeing it, and it doesn't explain how the camera is picking it up either. And both types of camera, you got infrared picking this up when the human eye can't see. You've got full spectrum cameras picking this stuff up, and same as with ghost phenomenon as well. It's so yeah, it's I found it fascinating. So I was really curious as to whether, hey, but I don't think that it's the human mind that's especially in the case of UFOs. That's why I think that stuff like telekinesis and all these other different things, that may be something slightly different, remote viewing and all this kind of thing. It may be something that certain human beings have that others don't. So yeah, I don't think they're connected with the UFO phenomenon. I think that's more of a human trait or something that we have inbuilt into some of us. And like with psychic ability, a lot of people who claim to be psychic and have visions every day, I think that real psychics, it comes without them wanting it to come, and it doesn't come all the time. That's what I found with the true psychics. Because, I mean, seriously, if they could just psychically look at something and say, okay, this is going to be the future of this, they'd be winning the lotto every single day.
Or they could call a UFO and say, hey, show themselves, and they magically appear, just like you did.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just like when you said Jesus, when you had that sleep paralysis and it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I found that fascinating too, that did happen that way.
I'm paying attention, man. I'm paying attention.
Something it seems to be, but it see, the thing is, it throws you for a six when it doesn't happen all the time. When like the same interaction doesn't happen. But when it does happen like that, it's magical. It can be like, oh, wow, like, look at that, it just appeared right where I looked, and it's doing this and that. And, so in the past, like whenever I've had the feeling, like when I was with my ex or whatever, I'd be like, quick, come outside, or I'd be outside already yelling at her through the window, come out, and there's something out here. And she'd run out and with a camera or something as well, and we'd both film it. And so it was one of those things. It was really strange. For a while, I felt like I could feel them, like a certain anxiety when they were around. And that lasted for a while. That lasted for about a good 3-4 years. And then it stopped, and it's different now. It's like it's different. I don't get that feeling so much anymore. And the UFOs have quietened down too. But I did see one and captured one the other day too. So I got some really good footage of it. That was the first one in a while, so I was pretty rapt.
So what did that one look like?
That was just a big orange ball,
and
it started.
Balls. You're always seeing the balls of light.
I love it. I'm gonna say I love the balls, but
it's always the balls. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the time, I mean, I've captured heaps of those cigar-looking things. These long things. I've got footage with little balls flying out of cigars. They're zipping around and doing weird things in the skies. I've got other things that look like flying saucers with the little things on top and the saucer things on the bottom. But most of the phenomenon is these strange balls of light. And also you got other shapes of these lights as well. So it's not just balls. Then you've got like these stretchy things. You've got these weird things that look like upside down shoe horses, and they glow this brilliant reddish orange color. And we've seen a few of them here in the country here, and they're really strange. And they hang upside down like a horseshoe in the sky like this. And they close up on each other and become one solid object and then disappear altogether. Really bizarre thing. So there's all different stuff. But yeah, the core phenomenon is the balls of light. I find them incredible. I've seen them split into multiple different balls. I've got footage of one big one flying and little balls flying into it, like it's crazy.
Well, what about the debunkers philosophy on ball lightning? How do you handle that, since you're the ball
lightning
guy?
Ball of light boy. All right. Well, they've tried to replicate like a plasma in a scientific laboratory experiment. And that's the only way they can replicate it for a few seconds up to a minute at a time. And that's in a solid enclosed space that they can replicate these so-called ball lightnings or plasma balls in an oxygen-rich environment. They can't. It has to be sealed. As soon as this plasma goes into open air environment, disappears completely. So these things, whatever they are, now there's a theory that the ball lightning is one and the same as UFOs, and they're just hanging around storms doing their thing or sucking energy from the storm or whatever the case is. Now that's a possibility too. I can't say yes or no. I'm not hanging up there in the sky with them. I don't know. But at the same time, it is fascinating, because I have seen a lot of, but you can't tell if it's a UFO or if it's a ball of light. Except one of the characteristics with balls of light, with the ball lightning phenomenon, is that it's very short lasting as well. It doesn't last long at all, compared to UFOs, which can go off and do their thing and zip around for ages or whatever. But most reports of ball lightning over the years, that's why it's rarely ever or hardly ever caught on camera, because it's hardly ever seen. It's UFOs are seen way more than balls of lightning, but the phenomenon does look very similar, and it can act in a very similar way too.
What is what's the difference between a UFO and a UAP for you?
Well, I just changed the term like years back, about 10 years ago, because I figured we needed to turn away from the term UFO, because as soon as you mention UFO, it denotes aliens, anal probing, and stuff like that, which make people laugh, and they take the mickey out of it and the whole subject. And I've noticed that my whole life. As soon as you mention UFOs to people, some people roll their eyes, or some people be like, "Oh, God, this guy's nuts." Whatever the case, But I've lost friends over it, family over it, you name it. Don't really care. Half of my family have seen it with me, half of them haven't. So I mean, and it's natural. I mean, humans, we're always like working out ways to separate ourselves from others around us, and we're special and all this sort of stuff. It's just human nature, I guess. But we're right and you're wrong and all this, like, it's like I said, and I say to everyone, you got to see it to believe it, to experience it to believe it, really. You can't take other people's words for the phenomenon being true, because most likely it's one of them things that, like I said to before, it will change your entire existence. Witnessing something absolutely incredible that you can't explain in benign terms. So it's fascinating, man.
For me, I separate UFO and I use both terms. So UFO to me, I would represent anything that's like a machine, because like the possibility that it could be man-made. But these lights that you're describing, these orbs that balls of light, I would classify those as UAPs, because it's aerial phenomenon.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't call that a UFO at all, because to me, that a flying object to me, solidified, solid metal,
Yeah, that's what people think, right? When they hear UFO as well. They think solid object, it can crash into the ground and you can go and retrieve it, get the metals, and get ultimate evidence that UFOs exist.
We want to get it so we can prove that it's theirs, and they want to get it just so we know, people don't know it was theirs,
I think the term, exactly, you're right. I think the term UAP is more in line with what the actual phenomenon is. It is a phenomenon. It's not just an object. It's an actual phenomenon. So it's a better term. Now, when I started using it, 10 years ago, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, why are you using the term UFO?" And I mean UAP when UFOs, and because I've experienced the eye rolls and the hatred from certain people when you talk about UFOs. But when you talk about UAP, they're like, "Oh, what's that?" Straight off the bat, and they're like, "Oh, that's actually sounds scientific and more interesting and more believable, and it's less about aliens and anal probes than So it takes away the whole, gives it a more scientific merit as well, and it's more an apt thing to use.
Yeah. In our ultra spectrum classification system. So I heard you mention Valet and John Keel as well. And you didn't mention Hynek, but that's okay. But
I love Hynek, but anyway,
but it's okay. So our classification system is a combination of the Hynek Valet and the John Keel's super spectrum philosophy as well. So which is why I call it the ultra spectrum, the next level up. And what I call that phenomenon, it's categorized as a sensory display, because I'm unsure if it's in the material world or in the mental consciousness world. But I just that category for me is just aerial activity. And I don't care. It's not unidentified. It's only unidentified because I don't know what it is, but I believe somebody knows what it is. And if you believe it to be an alien or an extraterrestrial, then it's identified. If you know that, if you've seen it, if you're an experiencer and you've seen those orbs before, you know what it is, it's extraterrestrial, it's identified. It's just unidentified to me. So, but so to make it easy so everyone can get along, aerial activity is bottom line, the root of what these things are. because they're in the sky and they're active.
Yeah, I mean, not just the sky. I mean, we have them on farms. We have them above the ground. We have them around in front of homes. We have them sometimes in homes. These lights, these same balls of light.
Now, do you think those
It's crazy.
paranormal orbs inside the house that they take spirit photography, are they the same thing or a different phenomenon?
If you're talking about the moisture orbs and the pollen and dust particle orbs, Well, of course. Actually, the other day I came across a video when we're in this same place in Tipperary. I had an infrared video going, and this ball has come down, stopped, and it's got 2 eyes in it, a nose, and a mouth smiling. And I mean, it's crazy. And then it just stops and then goes back on the same track it came on. Exactly, like, gone. I'm like, I can't explain to this day. I can't explain that bit of footage. It's actually got a face in it and everything. And I know there's a lot of pareidolia, and I know there's a lot of people looking into things, wanting to see things. It's the human mind that does that naturally. But I mean, it did catch me, and I have sent it to a couple of skeptics as well, and they're like, "Yeah, I can't explain that. It's a really weird one." So there may be the whole spirit thing, but what I'm interested in are the balls that are seen with the naked eye, not just stuff that you're taking a picture and a flash brings you back something. And you're like, oh wow, and because what I found most times, 9 out of 10, those things that have benign explanations, such as airborne particles of different types, especially out here in the country, we've got yellow ones, we've got pollen floating about, we've got all sorts of, and they show up in different ways. But I'm interested in the things, the balls of light that can be seen with the naked eye. Like, for instance, also not just that, other phenomenon like strange mists. In this house here, we've had 3 people die in here. Including my grandparents and someone else, and just literally a few feet away from where I'm sitting now, a couple of them. And we've had strange experiences here, cold spots where thermal cameras picked up strange, freezing, weird footprints on the ground that are 13, 14 degrees colder than the surrounding temperature, while there's a freezing cold mist in the air, and and multiple people are experiencing this stuff. And so really weird stuff like that. And also glowing green mists as well. Like, I've actually watched one come from the lounge room here and followed it into the kitchen behind, and then down around the corner and into the hallway and down into the rooms there. And I'm photographing this thing, and then I started filming it as it was down the end of the hallway here. And in the film is white, complete white. And in the second last photo, complete white. You can't see anything. The photo's completely whited out, which is really, really strange.
Did you use a flash?
No flash. No, I never use flashes inside the house. That's weird. I never use a flash inside the house. So yeah, fully green mist. I'd love to send you the photos and whatnot, but
sure.
I can't explain these things. But when you look in other cases, like the entity case with Doris Byther and and some of these cases, they speak about these green mists and green balls of light that would fly through walls and coalesce into one, almost a figure and stuff like this, and be seen by dozens of people. And that's why I found it fascinating. I remember watching The Entity as a kid, and the whole raping of the woman thing was a bit out there, but everything else surrounding it was like, wow, but that actually happened to this woman. And I find it incredible. It happens to certain people and not others. And this is what I'm fascinated about, and trying to find out why certain individuals experience this when others don't and never will. Just like with the UFO phenomenon, most people will go their whole lifetimes without seeing one UFO. And other people will go 10 lifetimes without seeing a UFO. Other people will see dozens in their lifetime. Some people will see one. Who knows? Is there coincidences involved? If we're seeing one UFO or 2, or is there less of a coincidence if you see multiple UFOs? And then, does that mean there's something to it? And all these questions we don't know the answer to. You can just hypothesize and postulate, but really we don't know the answers. So.
But you, like many
and
others,
if you're honest enough too, like a lot of people will say they know the answer, but if you're honest enough to yourself and to others, you really, the more that you think you know, the less you actually know in this field. So it's like, unlike carpentry or something we do here on Earth, the more you do it, the better you become at it. This is slightly a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to point out that you are clearly educated on the phenomenon, and you are clearly involved with the investigation, and it shows through this conversation. So I have no idea how many cases you've investigated, in your entire career, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that you are providing a service to ufology and paranormal studies. So I want to thank you for that. Like anyone who's asking those questions, who's trying to figure out the answer, whether even if though we don't have the answers, at least you're trying, and that's
Yeah.
important. It's very important. So thank you.
I agree. Likewise too, Ryan. Mate, you're doing a great job. And when I saw that you're linking phenomenon together, I was really excited, and I had a little bit of a look in. I did a little bit of research on you as well, and I was like, oh wow, I was really impressed, man. So it's
cool,
good
thanks.
that I can see that you've got a good mind about this, because to be able to connect these things together, it's not many people do. And so what I've noticed is a lot of the smarter people and people who've experienced it, who've spoken to experiences or whatever the case is, they seem to see the link between different phenomena. They have both phenomenon happening to them. Stuff, they're seeing weird things in the sky. They're seeing weird things, having weird experiences in their home. And I mean, I've come across enough of these people now where it's way beyond coincidence for me. So
I have a project in which I think you would be interested in helping me with. I'll talk to you about that after the show, and
Sure.
and I have some ideas, so it's pretty cool because I wouldn't mind knowing what's going on down under too, and comparing that to Canada.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's not just it's a global phenomenon. You mentioned Barry Taff. One of Barry Taff's colleagues is Alex Mistretta. He's a cryptozoologist as well. I don't know if you know him, but he's on our team too. He helps a lot with the American side too. So it's all connected, and we're all in it together. And I'm sure, like the Tower of Babel, we're just separated, and not every single one of us has the full answers. But if we work together, you might have the answers to some of my questions, and then vice versa.
Absolutely.
And I know unity is something that many people talk about, and I can guarantee you that I have a way that we can work together if you're willing. So we'll talk about that afterwards. But before,
absolutely,
because I don't want to put you on the spot, we're live, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there for anyone else who's listening too. So the next thing I want to talk about, because we kind of haven't really gone in this way, but have you at all had any missing time in your life?
Not that I can remember.
Not
no.
Well, of course not, because it's missing time.
Because it's missing. Exactly.
Obviously,
it's gone. Yeah. Like in the traditional sense.
You kind of walked into that one.
I did.
Yeah. So to be clear, it's you.
Yeah, not that I can remember.
I'm just trying to think of the abduction, the contactee phenomenon. Have you ever seen any beings? Have you had any experiences like that?
I've had dreams.
Okay.
Very lucid dreams. A decade ago, when everything was happening here in town here, when I was last in town here, I had to, but I woke up in my bed both times, but it was real. I mean, when I say real, you're lucid, you're aware in the dream, you can feel cold. I was lying on this black stuff. There was 8 other humans, all dotted around the bottom of this convex thing, and there was little beings walking around a perimeter, and there was porthole windows, everything like you'd imagine. There was like a light that was coming from nowhere. You couldn't see the light source, but there was this strange mist around that was all lit up. It was really bizarre experience, and I could see these little panels inside these, and these things would stop at these panels and do stuff. But we're all naked, and there was one woman that looked like not Daryl Braithwaite. Oh, jeez. That's a male singer, Australian singer. No, the lady from that movie Mermaid back in the 70s with the curly hair, long blonde hair, an American actress. It looked like she was on this thing. Everyone was naked, and we're lying there. We couldn't move, and I was having these thoughts or words come into my mind. I couldn't speak. It was one of the most bizarre experiences ever. I woke up in my bed with 2 marks on my left leg, and they looked like someone had stuck probably about an inch in diameter, like a suction cap on my leg, and then a smaller one directly underneath it, and sucked up the spider veins.
After you woke up?
I know, yeah, because it was a little bit itchy, and I was like, what? And then, yeah, and I saw them, and it looked like spider veins coalesced into these little perfect circles that were raised up out of the skin on my left leg. I'd never seen anything like it. I showed everyone, I'm like, have you seen any bites like this? And they're like, nah, it was really weird, really strange. And then 2 weeks later, in the same bed, I had another dream about being in this room, and there was this woman in there, or woman, she had pointy ears. She looked like a little elf or something like that out of Lord of the Rings. And she's sitting back on this bed, and she's looking at me, and all these thoughts coming in my mind, and it was like a weird sexual dream. And I thought, oh, okay, and I've gone down and looked down there. She was naked, but then when I've looked at her area, it was a big rectangular opening like this, and I'm thinking, how could you? Can't do anything with that. That's crazy. And then she's like confused, and I have these confusing thoughts coming in my mind. She's looking at me as I'm getting these thoughts with a confused face, like how can I see through this, or how can I, and I'm in my mind like, no way, I'm backing off from this. This is really bizarre. But then I'm like, no, I'll give it another shot. And I went down close, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm curious. I'm like, that's not right. I could see up in, and I'm like, no. And then there was this smell, like this smell of disinfectant or something. It was like not a hospital smell. It was really bizarre. I can't explain it. It was a real weird smell. And then because the marks 2 to 3 weeks earlier had disappeared, I woke up after this dream. This thing scattered off after I said no again. I'm like, whoa, okay, no, I was totally aware in this dream. I said, no, this thing toddled off backwards on the bed, like in The Exorcist, Linda Blair going backwards up the stairs, disappeared into a corner of a dark room. I've woken up, and then same marks have appeared back on my left leg again in the same spot 2 weeks after, or 3 weeks after, whatever it was, the original dream and the original mark. So I've had some experiences like that. I wrote it off to a dream, right, at the end of the day, that maybe a spider bite of some weird type during the night. But the coincidence of it happening twice was really weird, and seeing these weird alien things in it. I've never had anything before that or anything since that.
That fits like a really high marker for the abduction phenomenon, though. Like it's common. Like, you are describing things that other people have mentioned, but if it was scary. A dream, like, you have a physical effect, residual evidence, after after the effect. So dream or no dream, what's the explanation for the explanation for the markings?
Yeah, I think my auntie or someone tried to say it could be a spider bite of some type, but then I looked into all the different spiders around here, and I'm like, yeah, they don't leave bites that look anything like this.
Not even the big ones, like the giant monster spiders you guys have.
They're only bigger than your hand. They're not that big. But I'm joking, man. They're not that bad. We get the huntsmans down here, but they're harmless. They do their own thing. I mean, unless there's thousands of them in your home, and unless you start poking them or something, you'll be fine. It's all good. But yeah, it's crazy. It makes you think, hey, was it connected? Was that real? I've just swept it aside because I'm like, I've got actual evidence. I can't prove it, apart from the photos of the marks on my legs. But it was just a dream at the end of the day, and I prefer to be taken on my merit of what I've captured and what I've experienced, and the witnesses have seen stuff with me, and my video and photographic evidence, UFO showing up during these documentaries, stuff like that. Like, that's actually actual evidence that other people are seeing, not just me in my mind in my dream state. So I kind of sweep that aside, but it has always made me curious.
If we look at you as a whole, okay, like, you've had UFO sightings or sightings of light since 9, 12, and then when 23, 33, and that kind of, you have so many stuff. Then you have paranormal activity, you have poltergeist activity, you have conscious thought, and you have immediate response from you have a lot of this stuff and going on, and you could very well be what we call a multiple experiencer, and you are definitely some sort of freak. I don't want to say magnet, but like you are part of it. You are important, and if they're revealing themselves to you for a reason, and you're investigating the phenomenon, keep doing that, because because you're investigating your own experiences too.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, like you got to see it to believe it. I've had my own share of different types of things, but we don't have enough time to get into that. But so I understand where you're coming from, and I wouldn't. You're lucky, man. You're lucky. You get to see so much of this stuff.
Some would call it lucky. To be
Yeah.
honest, like a lot of my life, I've wanted just to be like everyone else,
Mhm.
and not see this stuff and just have a normal life like
But
everyone else. But
this is also could be the new normal. This is normal for some people.
I guess it's become
You're
normal for
you're
me.
not
But
alone. You're not alone. You're not the
it's
only.
hard to. Sometimes
Mhm.
you do feel alone. So
Well, I'm telling you, you're not alone. So if you're feeling alone, give me a call.
thanks, brother.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it, man. Likewise too. Hey, you're a
No
champion.
worries. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so that's the end of that. So before we leave, why don't you just tell everybody where they can find you? Where your what was it? Your Fractured Realities and the Haunted Skies. Like where can
Yeah.
people follow you? If not, I think a lot of people were commenting about subscribing to your channel. So anywhere else you want them to go?
Thanks, guys. Well, there's the AAPI channel. There is the Damien Nott channel. And there's also the Facebook pages. I have a public figure page, a new one that's just gone up. So yeah, I mean, you can join. I'm not really heavily into social media, so I'm hardly ever on them. I'm not one of these people that's always on social media. Like it kind of shits me off a little bit, to tell you the truth, but I will reply to you as soon as I can. Sometimes I get backlogged with messages and stuff like that, especially since some of the bigger documentaries are on Netflix and Amazon and all that sort of stuff, so you get hammered a lot. But I will get back to you as soon as possible. But I mean, I have a regular private Facebook page, and also the public figure page, AAPI, on YouTube, and Damien John Nott on YouTube as well. And you can find Fractured Realities, my first solo made documentary on there. There's a lot of witnesses of UFO group presidents and investigators around me who witnessed stuff with me. Even my father's a witness on there as well, ex-partner and a few other people. So, and it shows a lot of footage and stuff like that. I'm working on part 2 now, which will be out on the 22nd of December this year, which goes into the types of craft in our skies that are being seen and their characteristics and a whole bunch of other different things, and backed up with photo and video evidence and witness evidence and stuff like that. And part 3 is coming out after that. But Haunted Skies is my baby, mine and Mike's. And this is together, like between Mike and I, he's been investigating for 32 years. I've been looking into the subject for 32, 33 years. So between us, we have a wealth of possible brain power between us, hopefully a couple of brain cells between us, that we can make something good out of this. And it's actually looking really good at the moment. So, we're not sure which platform that will be going out on at the moment, but as far as we know, I've given away all my documentaries for free, except for the ones that have been made about me or on me or whatever the case is. That's out of my control, but whatever I do myself, I've been giving away for free. And whatnot. So yeah, so this one will be on 22nd of December on my Damien John Nott channel for free. So you can watch it. I want anyone to watch it, whether you have money, no money, whatever the case. I don't want to charge people for this, because it's important we all know what's going on. And I'm not in this for money. So
I appreciate your philosophy on that a lot. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for your service to ufology. We're going to end it with Chantel saying here. She says, keep being open about your experiences, Damien. No fucks given. You have encouraged it, man. Like, you're brave. All right, so we're going to end the show. Thank you so much, everybody. Damien, if you want to stick around at the end, well, you should. I'm telling you to stick around. Stick around. We're going to talk for a couple minutes at the end. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Monday at noon for my lunchtime Q&A. So if you want to pick my brain and ask anything, and we'll decompress about this episode as well too. And so we'll see that. Have a good weekend. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky and heed the world.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESSA, the Experiencer Support Association. Ryan Stacy and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with TESSA. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Hello, new YouTube member. Guess what? You've just unlocked bonus content that no one else has seen before, and you get exclusive access to some neat features. If you join the Experiencers Anonymous tier, you've unlocked loyalty badges which will appear next to your name when you join us live during any of our videos. The longer you stay with us, the cooler the badge will be. Also, you get to use these cool custom emojis that we made just for you. You also get to access our private Discord chat where we can communicate all the time privately. All you have to do is email us at admin@tessacan.org. Let us know you want in on the discussion and we will send you the link directly to Discord. This tier also unlocks early access to new videos, behind the scenes and blooper footage, as well as some exclusive videos made just for members. All that for $2.99 Canadian a month. If you join the unclassified tier for $4.99 Canadian, you would get everything I just said, plus extended footage of some of our featured videos, a discount to our merch store, and so much more. If you are a member of the unclassified tier, email us at admin@tessacan.org and let us know, and we will send you a discount code for the Paranormal Hangar. All proceeds go back into the mission and help us create educational content for you and the rest of the world. Thank you for being a part of that journey. There are lots of perks, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can use this tab to share and communicate with Tessa. That's it. Unless you have a better idea. If you do, email us at admin@tessacan.org if you have any requests for videos or bonus perks or anything at all. Really, you are in charge. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for your support, and if you know anyone else who may benefit, please share our channel. The more people we have, the more we can help. And thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. Say it with me. Say it, Tim.
Heed the world.
Heed the world.